Happy New Year! This week's Torah portion, Parashat VaYechi, is the last portion in the book of Bereshit, Genesis. As this first book of the Torah comes to an end, so too does the life of our patriarch Yaakov, Jacob, and many years later, the death of his beloved son Yosef, Joseph. Before Yaakov dies, he blesses all 12 of his sons, as well as 2 of his grandsons, Yosef's sons Ephraim and Manasseh. Jewish parents around the world invoke the names of Ephraim and Manasseh when blessing their sons on Friday nights before Kiddush at the Shabbos dinner table. Before reciting the words of the priestly blessing from the book of Bamidbar, Numbers, this is what we say as we place our hands on our sons' heads. Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Manasseh. This custom and these very words of introduction to Birkat Kohanim, this custom is based on the very words that Yaakov said to his grandchildren in Parashat VaYechi in Bereshit Memchet, chapter 48, verse 20. He says, B'cha yevarech Yisrael lemor, Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Manasseh. By you, Ephraim and Manasseh, shall Israel invoke blessings. And here's the formula. May God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. So as parents, when we bless our sons, we are essentially saying that we believe that they can learn much from these biblical role models, and we hope that they do. But why Ephraim and Manasseh? Why is it Ephraim and Manasseh that Jewish boys should try to emulate? Why not invoke in the Friday night blessing the names of the patriarchs, the Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, just as we invoke the names of the Imahot, the matriarchs, when blessing our daughters? When we place our hands on our daughters' heads on Friday nights before Kiddush, we say, Yesimech Elohim kesara Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May God make you as Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We bless our daughters in the names of the matriarchs because they, the Imahot, teach us about prayer, about patience, gratitude, hospitality, concern for others, and how to make difficult choices. Our message to our daughters is that Jewish girls can learn much from these role models. So when it comes to our sons, out of all of the praiseworthy characters in the book of Bereshit, from Noach to Avraham to Yosef, why are Ephraim and Manasseh singled out as role models for our sons? What is it about them that gives these young boys, born in Egypt, to Yosef and Asenat bat Potiphera, the right of receiving this eternal privilege to have their names invoked every Friday night in Jewish homes around the world, from generation to generation? How can we identify with these children about whom we know so little from the biblical text? Now, although it may seem that Ephraim and Manasseh are odd choices, upon closer examination, we see that in fact it makes a lot of sense to invoke their names during the Friday night blessing to sons. Like the matriarchs, whose names we invoke when we bless our daughters, Ephraim and Manasseh maintained their ideals, despite negative influences in their childhood environment. Despite the fact that they spent their childhood living in the palace in Egypt, surrounded by polytheistic practices, Ephraim and Manasseh were monotheists, thanks to the solid Jewish education provided to them by their parents, Yosef and Asenat bat Potiphera, who, according to the rabbis, was an eager and enthusiastic convert to Judaism. Of Yaakov's 12 sons and their families, Ephraim and Manasseh were the only ones to grow to maturity outside of the land of Israel. Yet, despite great odds, they still remained steadfast in their faith and in their commitment to Judaism. When Yaakov reunited with his son Yosef and met his grandchildren for the first time, he was delighted to find out that Ephraim and Manasseh were living by the family's monotheistic ideals. Their neshamas had not only survived in Egypt, they had actually thrived and flourished. The The blessing of Yaakov to his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh, that is given to Jewish sons to this day, is a blessing for the strength to withstand the lure of assimilation. It's a blessing urging our sons to be proud of their Jewish identities, even though we live in a society where Judaism is not the dominant religion. In addition, Ephraim and Manasseh were the first siblings in the book of Bereshit to live without rivalry. Before them came Cain and Abel, that didn't end well, Yitzchak and Yishmael, Yaakov and Esav, and of course, Yosef and his older brothers. All relationships that were fraught with conflict and competition. Ephraim and Manasseh, on the other hand, were brothers who seemed to live in harmony. Their decisions were not based on what is good for me, but what is good for my family, what is good for the community at large. Their concerns of ego seemed to be non-existent. Concerns of ego were cast aside in favor of something greater. Another quality about Ephraim and Manasseh that we hope our sons emulate is their appreciation of their lot in life. As Ben Zoma teaches in Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, Ezehu Ashir, Hasameach Bechalko. Who is rich? He who is happy with his lot. We learned from the Igra Dekala, quoted in the Mayana Shel Torah, that the whole point of the Torah is to teach us that a person should not pride oneself too much and should not be jealous of others. Even though Ephraim, the younger sibling, was blessed first by his grandfather, he didn't brag about it, and his older brother Manasseh didn't express any jealousy. Yaakov's act of blessing Ephraim before Manasseh would have made the other older brothers in the book of Bereshit seethe with envy. Undoubtedly. Just imagine how Cain, Yishmael, Esav, Reuven, or Yehuda would have reacted. Ephraim and Manasseh are unique among the siblings in the book of Bereshit in that they are satisfied with what they have. Ephraim doesn't lord his good fortune over Manasseh, and Manasseh accepts without complaint that Ephraim received his blessing first. So when we begin our Friday night blessings to our sons with the words, Yisimech Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Manasseh, we should have in mind that they be blessed with an ability to be appreciative and content with all that they have. As we reach the end of the book of Bereshit, with the reading of Parashat VaYechi, we recall the blessings that Yaakov bestowed on his children and grandchildren at the end of his life. So too, as we reach the end of the secular year 2020, even as we reflect back and continue to collectively mourn all that was lost during this global health crisis, let us also recall some of the blessings that we experienced the past year, even in the bleakest of times. In the year 2020, we may have grieved in ways we never could have imagined, but we also grew in ways we never could have imagined. And as the new year 2021 begins, may we look forward to the many more blessings that are in store for us. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Shabbat Shalom, and again, Happy New Year.